My presentation is on Wesley, Fezzik, and Inigo, Disability in the Classroom of Fantasy Life. So you guys are gonna have to work with me and go on a little trip and really suspend your sense of disbelief when it comes to this being a classroom. And our first student, oh, and by the way, Princess Bride, I don't know, how many of you are familiar with this movie? 1% out of 4 of you?
I've seen this movie. It's a great movie.
Okay.
I
So,
did read the book too.
excellent. All right, so at least half of you are admitting to familiarity with the characters. So our first one is Wesley, also known as the Man in Black. And as you will find out, he has been mostly dead all day.
I want my answer. You've been mostly dead all day.
We have Miracle Max. Make a pay to bring it back. Who are you? Are we enemies? Why am I on this wall? Where's Buttercup? Let me explain. No, there is too much.
All right, and Wesley is suffering from, hold on 1 second, let me get back into, there we go. Wesley is suffering from traumatic brain injury. Traumatic brain injury, as defined or classified by IDEA, will include memory loss, difficulty with concentration, difficulty relating to peers, some issues with executive function and marshaling one's emotions. Sometimes also impaired movement and or paralysis, which you witnessed in our clip. He displayed some limited paralysis. He also displayed confusion, and I don't know if you noticed, but he was a little bit combative with his peers. TBI is, again, per IDEA, it is sustained after birth, and it could result from any or all of the following: being pushed off a cliff by your one true love, tortured by a petulant king, or knocked unconscious repeatedly by a sword handle. So, when you have suffered these horrible, horrible things, if you are Wesley and you are suffering or living with traumatic brain injury, in order to support the memory loss and concentration, we would go with our standard organizational tools, which are very low tech, planners, timers, and checklists. These will allow him to both support his memory loss issues and also his concentration and, again, organization. Regarding his combative nature or his inability to control his anger or his difficulty with that, he could be provided with stress balls, and with the difficulty with movement or paralysis, he could also be provided with a wheelchair, a walker, or a series of switches, depending on whether he has movement in any or all of his limbs. Next, we have Inigo Montoya.
Killed my father. Prepare to die. My name is Diego Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Hello! My name is Diego Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Stop saying that!
And here we saw Inigo displaying a couple of common traits of students with autism. Most specifically, we saw some perseveration. Perseveration is a focus or repetitive action, speech, or thought process. They often will also struggle with transitions, and and they have difficulty with social interactions, which again, you might have seen. There was very little actual interaction between the Six-Fingered Man and Inigo Montoya. He was given a very specific request to stop saying that. He did not. There are also some sensory motor difficulties that may be present. Some people with autism will occasionally exhibit an intense interest or talent in a specific area or topic. In this case, it is sweet revenge. In the classroom, our student Inigo would have some similar supports and assistive tech, again, very low tech, that we saw with Wesley and his traumatic brain injury. Some visual schedules within the social interaction pieces, social stories, and visual redirects. We have examples of both the schedule and the social stories. Both of these are available. We can be as low tech as we like. We can physically draw them. We can also use something like Boardmaker or some other picture software. And then as far as sensory motor regulation, weighted blankets, fidgets, and sensory cushions are all available to help Inigo to manage the input of his senses, and then also to regulate some need for movement and stimulation. And then finally, we have Fezzik.
Are you just fiddling around with me or what?
I just want you to feel you're doing well. Hate for people to die in the hand. Yeah, correct.
All right, and as you will notice, Fezzik, who is portrayed by the actor Andre the Giant, he's there on the right. Fezzik, and also the actor who portrays him, have a condition called acromegaly, which is associated with a variety of illnesses and side effects that will eventually limit strength, vitality, and alertness. And it also includes progressive vision loss and joint pain. It does not, however, interfere with anyone's ability to rhyme or their taste for peanuts. Peanuts? Anybody want a peanut? No more rhyming? Okay. And this is the one point in the presentation where I'm really going to ask you to sort of go with me on this. Specifically because acromegaly is not typically diagnosed until middle age, so we are not going to run into students with acromegaly. However, we are going to run into students who have issues with vision loss, joint pain, and he would, again, if acromegaly presented itself in students, he would be classified under OHI. So supports for students with OHI and specifically with low vision or vision loss and or joint pain. We would be using, again, we can go from low tech to high tech. We can use apps to magnify text. We can also just use a magnifying lens. We can provide enlarged text, and we can also use slant boards. Slant boards will support in both the vision portion, and then you'll see under here, it's also under joint pain. Correct positioning of the hands and in the wrist when writing not only supports tracking, which is going to reduce the amount of strain that it puts on someone's vision, but it also will relieve some of the joint strain that will contribute to the joint pain. As far as vision loss, when someone has come to the point where they are completely vision impaired, we will be able to provide braille text and keyboard, as well as text-to-speech and speech-to-text. And then finally, with the joint pain, again, speech-to-text, pencil grips, and slant board. And one thing that I do want to point out here, and then also call back to the other slides, is that we tend to see similar classifications and similar pieces of tech that support a variety of students in a variety of settings, and students who have disabilities that run the entire spectrum. But the nice thing is that the more that we can provide these supports boards within our standard classrooms, the more that we incorporate them into the concepts of universal design, the more that we can seamlessly integrate assistive technology into our students' lives, and I think really enrich not only our special ed students who have the assistive tech per their IEP, but also the other students in the classroom. Which brings me to IDEA. All of these pieces of assistive tech and all of these students would classify under the IDEA classification. Again, we had A, autism, O, OHI, and we had traumatic brain injury. All of their students would participate in general education full-time with needed assistive technology per IDEA, which provides them with technology that they, quote, need in order to access their faith. Again, with regard to universal design specifically, that is a concept that was really introduced and endorsed by IDEA. And those are my sources, and that is it.